What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and of course we're going to have a video on Super Boss. So these are just, again, my raw initial teams going against this content. So the way that they've kind of designed this is that the 5 Elder team is just going to be probably one of the better teams to use against this. It's almost like plug and play because they just kind of counter most of the stuff here. However, against this strength variation, you'll see on stage 2, there's some really annoying gimmicks that kind of throw a wrench in the plans of running pure 5 Elders, as there is this 3-turn defense up, there is special bind on your top and middle row, and also there's a bit of a health cut, there's a burn effect. I mean, that doesn't really matter too much, but the more important thing is the defense up and the special bind. So the best way to, if you are planning to like use a 5 Elder team, is to just run a character that can kind of fulfill that role of removing the defense and the special bind. I believe what they want you to do in this content is to use the new Bellamy support rare recruit on one of your characters, and then using that in the team would work. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but it'd have to be a unit that removes special bind. And they want you to use that. I think that the new Dovey character, use them with the Bellamy support, and I think that is probably the best way forward to get through this content. And then, of course, on the final stage, we basically have all of the 5 Elders to kind of do what you need to do. However, I did make a bit of an error, as you guys are going to see with this specials, and of course this was only like the first level of KIZUNA, so it really wasn't that big of a deal, but the enemy will react to a delay. Now I believe if you use like the Doflamingo on stage 2, they delay with a clock buff, which means that you kind of pseudo get around the enemy interrupt. However, if you activate a delay, which we do with Marcus Mars, they're going to put up a barrier for 1 turn, which we can remove with the EX supers anyway. Then they also put up 10 turns of increased defense, which is not a problem because we have Nusjuro on the team. It just means we have to activate Mars first and then activate Nusjuro so that we can use the Nusjuro special to remove the increased defense. But you'll see, even though that there is increased defense, we can get through it anyway without too many hassles. But of course, later on down the line, you definitely want to make sure you're using your specials in the right order. Okay, so now we get to the secondary boss fight, and this is against the Int variation. Once again, the 5 Elder team is going to work really well in this boss fight. So the way that you are kind of getting around this one is that we are having a lot of bind removal, because we are inflicted with 7 turns of bind for our captains on stage 2. We remove 1 turn of bind with our ship, which is the Grand Tesoro at level 12. We also have the Marcus Mars support of Bao Huang, which removes 1 turn of bind when the enemy changes our slots. And then with versus Rob Lucci, we have Legend Khalifa. That support will remove 2 turns of bind when we're inflicted with it. So all that being said, we get through it pretty comfortably there. Realistically, if you don't have Bao Huang, this is going to be much more tougher. I think the Coded Sunny is I'm pretty sure there is a 2-turn bind removal ship. I think you could probably use that, and then potentially replacing Lucci with someone that can have 2 turns of bind removal if you didn't have Khalifa. That would probably work. I just don't recall off the top of my head which of the ships, if any, have 2 turns of bind removal inbuilt, so you are able to kind of get around that effect. So I guess I don't really make that much of an error. Realistically, you shouldn't have used the Lucci special there, the rush. And the reason why I stall is because there is a special use limit. And then the only thing the enemy does is that they will do damage to you, and then they inflict paralysis. So what you could do instead is use the Walkyrie Super, EX Super, which will give you damage reduction, which allows you to tank that first hit a little bit easier. So I think moving forward, that's probably what I'll do. Ultimately, you could also just replace Lucci with a character that has the ability of special use limit potential ability, which would allow you to basically do your burst on one turn. But with this current setup, we aren't able to do it on the first turn because of that really nasty special use limit. There isn't really anything too much crazy from this point onwards though. If you do activate a color affinity special, the enemy does type change into Psy, which I guess is kind of interesting. So against this boss fight, this is definitely the one where you would prefer to use Saturn as a final tap, I guess. I guess it really doesn't matter because, I mean, he's super effective anyway, so I guess it really depends on what you want to do. But either way, I'll leave you guys with the rest of this. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.
お前にしては仕事が遅かったな。